All right, good morning, guys. Today is going to be the start of a brand new series on my channel. It's not going to be kind of in consecutive videos, I'll kind of make it from time to time. But it was an interesting idea that one of my friends suggested, and I thought I'd implement it because it was a good idea. So, today we're going to be talking about the book of Job. And what this series is about, guys, is going to be essentially talking about different people in the Bible, their story, what they've experienced, and how we can take their experience and apply that wisdom into our lives as well. Okay, so I'll make that probably a playlist in my channel at some point when we get enough videos. But yeah, so it's a brand new idea we're going to be starting, so let's get into it, guys. So today we're going to be talking about the book of Job. So for those of you who don't know, Job was a blameless, upright man. He had a big land. He had a farm, right, with his oxen, his camels, his sheep. He had a lot of brothers and sisters. He had sons and daughters as well. And so life was good for him. He kind of had everything you can want. He had, the big land, so he had the possessions. He had, his wife. He had brothers, sisters, and, a big family overall, right, with sons and daughters. So one day Satan approached the Lord, and the Lord said, have you ever considered, my son Job? He's a blameless, upright man who fears God and turns away from evil. And so the devil says, which, this kind of makes sense. And the devil says, of course he's going to fear God and turn away from evil. Look at all that you've given him. He has so much. He has everything that someone could ever ask for. Of course he's going to continue to, pray to you and love you because he has everything he could ever want. And so God says, okay, I'm going to give you permission to attack him. You can do whatever you want with him. I only ask that you spare his life. And so Satan goes, okay. So the next day, Satan comes and attacks Job. And what does Job immediately lose? He loses all his sheep, all his oxen, all his camels. His sons and daughters pass away in a tragic accident while they're all eating dinner at the eldest brother's house. The wind blows and the house falls on him. And Job essentially loses everything in his life that he had at once. And so Job, immediately after seeing this, began to pray and said something which is really, really impactful, honestly. He said, how can we receive, the good from God and not the bad? So after all this, Job still remained steadfast in his faith, and he continued to pray, and it was amazing. Then Satan once again approaches God again and says, I'm going to continue to attack him. And God says, okay, I give you permission to just continue to spare his life. And so Satan comes back again, and now, he's already lost everything, materialistic in his life in terms of his land, and then of course his family. And so Satan then now begins to attack his health. So now he's not, right, in his body, obviously. So he's dealing with a major sickness, and now, like, Job's kind of had enough, right? Job's friends, after hearing about all these tragic incidents, they come to try and comfort him. And I think from here, the book of Job gets very kind of poetic, and it's very long. Job essentially goes on a long set of monologues, and he really falls into a state of despair and kind of emptiness. And he really starts to touch on a lot of ethical dilemmas that I think are talked about nowadays, especially by like atheists or people who are not super convinced with the Christian faith. And so I'll just read some of these kind of ideas and sort of things that he was talking about once he kind of felt this despair and hopelessness after losing everything. Alright, guys, so that was him talking about him cursing the day he was born, talking about why do humans suffer, talks about how can we be just before God as mere mortals. He says he's a laughing stock. He says, why do the wicked go unpunished, but the righteous do get punished? He talks about why is there violence on earth? Why are there good people who are being harmed, when, their heart is pure? Right, so it gets into this really big ethical dilemma, and a lot of these things are sort of talked about, and it gets really interesting. I'm not going to talk about that a lot in today's video because it is a little bit far from the message I'm trying to talk about. But if you guys are interested in that, there's some long monologues there, which are really interesting as well. But after this sort of, hopelessness, after him kind of losing faith and talking, really he starts to justify himself instead of God, right? He's really focusing now on himself and all the pain he's in, all the despair he's experienced, and really how low he's feeling in life after he just really lost everything he could have ever hoped for. Right, and earlier he said, how can you receive the good from the Lord and not the bad? Right, but eventually it came to this boiling point where, that mentality kind of was lost. And so now we're at the point where Job is with his friends. He's justifying himself now. He's talking about all his pain. And then one of Job's other friends, I believe his name is Elihu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Elihu. He comes and really says, how can you, justify yourself before God? He's the one that's all-knowing. He has plans to prosper you guys, and even now that he's taken everything away from you, if you remain steadfast, don't you think he's just going to give everything back in due time? And he was really saying some really important things that kind of went over Job's head. And then finally kind of God had enough. He came to Job and he said this crazy monologue as well, guys. I'm sorry, there's a lot of monologues in this chapter, so I don't really want to say the whole thing, but really God says, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Who determined its precise measurements? Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place? Have you entered into the springs of the sea? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? And kind of God goes on this long monologue saying, I've had enough. I'm the only being that is all-knowing, that can comprehend things that humans can't even imagine. And just really talked about his greatness, guys. God is so great. He has infinite wisdom, and he works in ways for us that we can never imagine or comprehend. So that's why it's so important to put your faith in him and remain steadfast, because even when you're struggling, he's trying to teach you a lesson, like he was trying to teach Job. Job was one of the most upright, righteous men ever, and he still got tested. I mean, obviously it was a big test. It was probably one of the ultimate tests, right, you could ever experience, losing everything like that. But we're going to start to lose stuff on our journey too. We're going to start to lose materialistic possessions. We're going to start to lose things that we didn't think we could. But if he, honestly guys, if he can take away things you could never imagine he could have, then he can replace it with something as well that you could have never imagined. So just think of it like that, guys. And so after God kind of reveals himself to Job and talks about his plans for everyone, his righteousness and his infinite wisdom, Job finally kind of concedes and says, you know what does he say, guys? He says, I'll give you guys a quote here. He says, I lay my hand on my mouth. I know that you can do all things, and no purpose of yours should be thwarted. I have uttered what I didn't understand, things too wonderful for me. Now that I see you, I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. Okay, guys, so that's one of the most upright, righteous men in the entire Bible, and even he, obviously after receiving this crazy big attack, still had to end up repenting because he kind of lost his faith. He kind of justified himself before God, right? And what is that? That's kind of pride, right? He kind of lost that pride, and before you see his great humility as well, and he's obviously regained that after God has revealed himself to him, guys. So at the end of that story, essentially, God then kind of gave him everything back in his life and twofold, right? So he kind of doubled his oxen, his sheep, his camels. He then had 3 sons and 7 daughters. After God revealed himself to him, his brothers and sisters came to comfort him, and he lived a long, long life after it. And he prospered, right? It was inevitable. Like I say on this channel, guys, our prosperity is inevitable, but we got to be ready to overcome these challenges and remain steadfast in the faith and seek his wisdom in order to do that, guys. So what can we kind of take away from this book that I think is so important for you guys to implement into your own life? Well, first, it's essentially humility, right? Understanding that we're mere mortals, we're sinners, we're humans, and God's infinite wisdom is too much for us, right? He's working for us in ways unimaginable that we can't comprehend. So it's to remain steadfast in that faith, to understand that He's going to prosper us so long as we stay focused on Him and our purpose. Number 2, it's going to be to, honestly just understand that we're in good hands, that He has us. He has us right where we are right now. He wants us to continue to seek Him and move in that right direction. And that comes with just, being faithful every single day, putting your head down, doing the hard work, right, guys? In this instant gratification age where people are just constantly on social media, constantly seeing people winning, it's hard to kind of understand that if you're not winning yet, it'll come in due time, but you just got to put your head down and put in the work behind closed doors as well, guys. Some people are not even going to give you a pat on the back. You're not always going to get that support that you think you deserve, but just keep going, because eventually they'll all be there. You'll have all the support in the world if you guys just continue to work hard, because people will notice it, guys. That work doesn't go unnoticed, believe me. And what else, guys? What else do I have for you guys? Understand that the righteous will perish, right? If you guys are living righteous, if you guys are kind and caring to other people around you, if you guys are continuously, just putting God first, and as a result, you're definitely putting other people first as well, and you're making sacrifices in your life, just understand that everything will be paid for you, right, in the gates of heaven. Your life is already bought. Your salvation is already intact. You guys are saved. So just continue to be righteous. Continue to humble yourselves. Understand that God has a plan for you guys. Understand that we're gonna win. That we're gonna continue to walk down that narrow path that not too many people are walking down. And just enjoy life, guys. Just be happy. Be happy with where you are. Understand that things being taken away from you will be things being added to you eventually in due time, guys. Sorry, these kids are kind of playing around. I guess it's recess time. It's Monday morning, but thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Please make sure to thumbs up the video, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for the comments as well. I see a lot of positive comments and some video suggestions. I know someone yesterday commented on a video about lust potentially coming up, so I'll either make that the next video or the one after. But thank you guys so much for the support. All love. Take care. Have a great start to your week. Remain faithful. Put God first, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.